Hello, my name is Priya Hunt and I am an executive coach whose mission is to inspire leaders like you to thrive and create a bigger impact. This is a short podcast to spark some ideas in you about a topic related to executive coaching and leadership. I will be telling you a story to bring it to life, sharing my interpretation of some of the science behind the story, and a few practical suggestions for you to use. So, get your pen and paper out and let's begin. Today's topic is creativity. And to illustrate my points, I will share a story from ancient India, from a time when two sons were born to a king on the same day, at the same time, but to different queens. Vidyut was born to his favorite queen and Ujjwal to his first queen. The king, a fair and just one, consulted his wise minister about whom should he make the crown prince. The minister recommended that they let the boys grow up and come of age, and then determine who is more worthy of being the king. So the princes were sent to study with the best guru in the land, and they stayed with the guru until they came of age at 17. The guru then brought the princes back to the palace. They had both grown up to be handsome and well-spoken young men. The king spoke to the guru in confidence. "How have my boys developed? Who would make the better king?" he asked. "Your Majesty, Prince Vidyut is exceedingly intelligent and has mastered arithmetic, science, and scriptures brilliantly. Prince Ujjwal is also intelligent, but he is exceptionally creative. He is a musician par compare. When he sings or plays an instrument, he is lost in the music and can go on for hours. But the beauty of this fact is that the audience also gets mesmerized by it. I cannot choose between the boys. They have spent all these years at Gurukul with me. I would suggest you get them to work in your palace with your courtiers for a couple of months and then get feedback from the people directly." So, the king sends off the princes to work on normal courtly duties with his other officials. After 2 months, the king and his minister call the courtiers and ask for feedback. "Your Majesty, Prince Vidyut is very intelligent. He picked up all his duties so quickly and even made improvements to our processes. But we have to say we absolutely love Prince Ujjwal. He really connects with us. He understands and empathizes with us. He was able to encourage some of our departments who were not performing well to make changes themselves." After they are gone, the minister sees that the king is still troubled. "How can I choose Ujjwal just because people find him nicer? Surely a king has to excel in all things to rule, especially battle strategy." The minister then offers to create a challenge to test them both. "Your Majesty, this challenge will need them to use their knowledge of science, maths, strategy, and much, much more. They will need to make their way through a maze, face up to dangers, find a golden bow and arrow on the way to reach my golden canary, which will be hidden in a tower. They will then need to free up the bird. Whichever prince does that and does it first would have proven himself beyond any doubt." The princes set off on their adventure, which is too long a tale for me to tell you here. But after a few days, Prince Vidyut returns first to the king. He has a golden bow with him, but no canary. "When I reached the bird, I could see it for a second, but then all the lights went off. I had to then shoot at the cage from my memory and I missed," he said, feeling dejected. The king is disappointed, but wants to see what happens with Ujjwal. It takes another full 2 days before Ujjwal returns, with a bow and with a canary. "How did you manage to free the bird, my brother?" asks Vidyut in awe. "The lights went off and I started to sing to encourage the bird to sing back to me. When it did, I could judge its position and was able to free it with a single shot." The king is overjoyed that there is no rancor between his sons and gladly makes Ujjwal the crown prince. This is a tale just for a bit of fun. But now, there are 3 points that I want to draw your attention to in the story and delve a bit into the science behind them. Number 1. Creativity is defined as something that is novel and useful. The Hungarian-American psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi describes the experience of flow in the context of creativity, where people feel a deep sense of enjoyment and time becomes irrelevant. This state is just out of your comfort zone. It moves you into your stretch zone, which is where growth happens. He says that when people find their flow, it contributes not only to their happiness, but also to society. And this is what we can see with Prince Ujjwal. getting lost in his music alongside his audience who derive great pleasure from it. So, creativity brings joy, not just to the person participating in it, but to others. Csikszentmihalyi says flow occurs when you have a high level of challenge, but also a high level of aptitude to face that challenge. This is evident in Ujjwal. Have you experienced this, either as the artist or the audience? The second point is that Ujjwal is demonstrably more empathetic. Now, there may be a number of reasons for this, but several research studies have shown that children who engage in more creative pursuits, extending their imagination, show a greater understanding of the minds and emotions of others. In the business world, we can look at task-oriented versus people-oriented leadership. Both are required to be practiced by good leaders, but in order to be a resonant leader who focuses on relationship values and encourages the sense of self in his team, one needs to engage the parasympathetic nervous system and what is called the default mode network of your brain. Engaging in creative passions are just one way of doing this. The third point I will draw your attention to is that Ujjwal may not have been as intelligent as Vidyut in some of the fields, but his creativity enabled him to complete a task that tested his intellectual and emotional mettle better than Vidyut. There is a fantastic book by Adam Grant called Originals, which has numerous examples of how nonconformists change the world. There is a reference in that to a research study by Michigan State University that shows that Nobel Prize winning scientists are dramatically more likely to be involved in creative pursuits and arts than less accomplished scientists. All very fascinating, Priya, you may say, but what can I practically do about it? Here are 3 practical tips that I'm taking away from this story to encourage more creativity in my life. Number 1, reserve some time every week to engage in a creative activity and review and reflect if I'm using this time appropriately. This doesn't have to be long. In fact, I'm a firm believer that if it's short, say 15 to 30 minutes, I'm more likely to do this regularly and then make it a good habit. This can be any activity you enjoy. If you're a social person, join a class as it'll bring another aspect of creativity out in you and you will learn more from the group. If you're not, there's plenty of stuff you can do on your own, including cooking, painting, creating music. Number 2, try not setting any goal in terms of excellence for this activity. Simonton says, creativity equals originality multiplied by appropriateness. To be original, you often have to challenge the rules or think outside the box. When you're striving for the best, this is hard to do. You have to take risks and learn from failure. When painting the Mona Lisa, I bet Da Vinci wasn't setting himself the target of creating one of the most famous paintings in the world. He was exploring what he could do to bring her alive on canvas. Number 3, create the environment to experience flow. Flow comes naturally and cannot be forced, but we can create an environment which is conducive for flow to occur. For example, I protect the time I spend on my creative activity and switch off all other distractions. The more I practice, the more proficient I get. And as I mentioned, flow occurs when there is high aptitude and high challenge. What are the tips that you're taking away from this story? Do share in comments, as I would love to know. I hope creativity can flow in your life and bring you the experience of sheer joy. Thank you.